Strikes, some things have really gone wrong. The best plan that you had has gone for a toss, and you feel terrible about it. It's quite easy to get discouraged when things are going wrong. It's quite easy to start blaming yourself, start blaming others, the situations, the economy, and everything when things are going wrong. But that's exactly the thing that you must stop doing. Because here's what happens to a lot of us, actually, all of us who go through a problem. We start trying to rationalize why it happened to me. We start worrying about what I could have done to avoid it. We start beating ourselves up. I still remember way back in 2005 when I was called in the gloomy office at Microsoft and I was told that my performance wasn't good enough and they're going to let me go. And I was given that box in which I had to put all my stuff, the insult I felt, the negativity that got created, the feeling of hurt, being a victim. It was too much. And I remember going to a car, sitting in there, and first, just I was blank, and I just drove, and I don't even remember how I reached from office to near my home. And on a red light, I just stopped the car in the corner, and I started crying. And I called my wife, and I told her, "I'm fired." She left her meeting in midway, and she came over, and we spoke. And I remember being in that negative mindset, and then she said something that really changed the way things happen for me in future. And I still remember that like 18 years later, how important was it? She told me that we're going to go for a walk. And it was so odd that afternoon, August is not exactly like the cool place in India, but afternoon, we went for a walk. We went for I think 6-7 kilometers walk, and I felt refreshed. So the first thing that I would suggest you do is you do some exercise, you do some physical movement, go to the gym, exercise, run, whatever it is that you do something physical. Because when you do something physical, your body, your adrenaline rush, the body, the hormones that flows, the rush of energy that comes in, it's very hard for you to feel dejected, like a victim or depressed when you're actually doing some physical activity. So that's the first secret that you must implement. And the second thing that you must do is create a plan. Because when these negative things happen to us, we actually start worrying about it primarily because we're worried about our future. We think about how will it impact my life? We think about what if this continues? We start into this entire thread of massive self-doubt. And the moment you start planning for your future, you put it down, you put your thoughts on the paper, not just think, but put it on paper. You start creating a story of how it will be in future. And that creates certainty, that creates confidence. So that's the second thing. And third, which is the most important thing, is take one action. Things go wrong. They will go wrong. Even after this, things will go wrong. But when you take an action, you actually change the relationship that you have with the circumstances. In fact, it's a funny story, but I remember way back in 1990 when my twin brother got into IIT Kanpur and I didn't make it. I remember crying and everything, and it didn't help. But the very next day, I got onto this plan, which is like the step number 2. I got onto this plan. I created this 1-pager plan, which was amazing, fantastic, which had all the plan about how I'll go through the IE Rodov, which was something I was scared of, like physics and resting holiday and everything. And I made this phenomenal plan. And then I told my elder brother that I'm going to have this amazing plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And he was super impressed. And he said, "So this is good. What are you going to do now?" I said, "I'm just going to sleep because I'm really tired." And rest is history. Obviously, I did not even have the courage to take the IIT second time. I went to REC Allahabad after that. But the idea is that you can have a best possible plan, but if you do not execute it, if you do not actually take an action, it's not going to work in your favor. After becoming a coach last 6 years, the one thing which has become consistent in my life is massive action taking. I do not think about things. I do not brood over things. When things go wrong, and they would go wrong, just because I'm a coach, I have read hundreds and hundreds of books. I finish 2 books a week. Doesn't mean that my life is honky-dory. Things go wrong. And when they go wrong, when the dejection, the feeling of rejection, the dejection, all that come in, when there is discouragement, when I'm getting up and saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to get up." What do? I make a physical movement. I exercise. No matter what happens, I would exercise. And I make a plan. How am I going to resolve this? What am I going to do? Who am I going to reach out to? And I take one action. I reach out to that person. I make that phone call. I talk to my partner about something. I take an action. I make that page or whatever it is. I take an action. So if you actually were to implement all of these things, that you make a plan, you do physical exercise, you make a plan and you take an action, things will start looking a lot more better for you. I promise you that. And if you love it, if you think this kind of thing is going to really help you, then I want you to absolutely go and start following these threads, because the things that I'm going to share is going to change the way you look at the negativity that is always going to be part of your life, because life, no matter what happens, is going to throw curveballs at you. And I want you to be ready for it.